One race remains between the field and the playoffs with a clash against the Big O Rock tonight, as the North Carolina Skies greet round 16 of the 4-wide racing ARCA series and the historic Rockingham Speedway. Welcome to coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network, where alongside Francisco Bacchial up here in the broadcast booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Francisco, this race proving pivotal to the championship again, because we continue to get closer to the playoffs. It continues to become nasty around that playoff bubble, and that means that these drivers are going to go all at it tonight with a track that has never made its appearance in 4-wide racing history, a brand new track in Rockingham Speedway.
If there's any big sort of wild card game, if you were to put it in these last couple races, this is definitely it. We don't run that much here in Rockingham with NASCAR race cars overall, at least in recent times, unless you get an occasional fixed series or open series that runs here. Other than that, almost never do you touch this racetrack with these cars, and it's going to be very interesting tonight to see how these guys adapt with these ARCA cars. The ARCA cars are not that easy to drive, of course, and let alone at a track like this that is so bumpy but also requires a lot of the horsepower in the car, because these straightaways, and with how fast the corners are, you really need that power on the straightaways to carry that speed and not lose a lot of lap time. So it's going to be very interesting tonight. I mean, I think the last time we saw a NASCAR series run here was in 2013 with the Truck Series. So it's been a while. They've been trying to come back to the NASCAR schedule, Kenneth, but in the meantime, at least we have it on the iRacing service, and it is making its debut this week.
Debut track, but it's one that has a lot of history in real-life stock car racing, and it traces all the way back to 1965 on a spooky Halloween evening where this track opened to the public at that time. It is a gorgeous 1.017 mile, 1.636 kilometer racetrack with 22 degrees of banking in 1 and 2, 25 degrees of banking over in 3 and 4, and a total of 8 degrees on that tri-oval. It's a very weirdly placed start-finish line with a very bumpy surface. This track obviously being very old as is, so you're going to see these cars probably swing around a lot, and the suspension going to be working hard to keep these drivers all on pace for tonight's race, which it should be over 150 laps. It's going to be a long one here tonight. And indeed, Francisco, last race in NASCAR competition held back in 2013. Guess who the driver who won that race was in the Truck Series? Current NASCAR champion Kyle Larson, who drives a 5-car for Hendrick Motorsports this year, and our last Cup race for this track back in 2004. But one thing to also notice that will challenge these drivers, much like this track will tonight, is the playoff points. You can take a look at the playoff standings right on your grid. So if we were to end the playoffs right now, these are the 10 that will fight for a 4-wide racing ARCA Series title. And And Francisco Kyle Benson been on a roll. Last 2 races, he's won the last 2 in a row. The first time since TJ Bursky did it this season, back in the first 2 races at Auto Club in Phoenix. He holds the current control of the playoff standings.
Kyle Benson has found some momentum this season, Kenneth, and he is really trying to make a stand and make a claim for why he is the defending champion of this overall series, even with a different vehicle that they used the truck series last season, this time the ARCA cars. He is trying to make it back-to-back, and right now he is making an excellent claim for himself. Tonight is going to be a big challenge to see who is able to rise to the occasion. If you look there on that win column, both him and Joe Sanchez have 3 wins. Those definitely looking like the guys to beat in this series. And when you also take into account the tracks that Joe Sanchez has won at, Darlington, Iowa, the Legacy Michigan's track, these are all very bumpy and old, worn surfaces, and this is one of those tracks that blends to that nature. So if there's anybody to look for tonight, it's going to be that 55 of Joe Sanchez, Kenneth. He's won at the tracks. He's proven time and time again this is his strong suit.
And when it comes to these old tracks, Sanchez has a hold of it, and coming into this race with the most laps led out of anybody in the roster, that may spell good for Sanchez as he qualifies up into the top 3. You can take a look at the top of your screen, but drivers will be lined up behind the iRacing official pace car, which means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight from the virtual Rock and Thunder Alley. On pole is Brian M. Smith with a 24.30 run, looking for another win on this campaign in the 78, with Eric Schaefer got so close to the win at Richmond last week, he'll look for redemption on the outside of row number 1.
And looking at your second row of the grid, the man we were just talking about, Joe Sanchez, in that top 3 position, looking to try and get 4 wins, and one of the drivers he beat in one of those races, Brandon T. Banks, to his outside in that 4th position.
We'll look back to the drivers in row number 3. You'll find the 13 of Craig Launslugger lined up in P5 with fellow member Cody Kinsey in the 93 to his outside in the 6th position.
Jesse Pree is able to have some strong momentum the last couple of events, both in the ARCA and Cup Series. He starts in 7th with AJ Green, a driver who was very fast last week, Kenneth, in the Cup Series, had that unusual penalty mid-race and was able to make that comeback, unfortunately 1 spot short. We'll see if AJ can carry some of that momentum from that one and try and get a win here today.
And behind them, back to row number 5, the final drivers in the top 10 include the 43 of Ricky Rosner in 9th, and Kyle Benson looking for 3 in a row. He'll be the first one to do it. If he can get it done, he'll line up just inside the top 10 in that 5th row.
Jacob Denson just missing out in the top 10 with that 11th position in the 45, with Tyler Murray, the league owner, in 12th.
Behind them, row number 7, you'll find Charlie Hartcomb in the 46 machine and Curtis Kelly, the winner at Myrtle Beach, back in 14th.
Christopher Bishop with a decent qualifying effort up in the 15th position, and Lance Hill trying to see if he can get up there with his Stonks Motorsports teammates.
And behind them in row number 9, there's Colin Forster for Stonk Motorsports back in P17. Some work to do there for the 99, and Kevin D'Elia in the 53 will be behind him in P18.
Austin Reedy, a driver we have to keep an eye out for tonight, not just because he is competitive at most of these short and old tracks, but because he's in a crucial playoff position. He has to win to make it into the playoffs, Kenneth. We'll see if he can do that here tonight with Michael Woolley, who starts in the 20th position.
And behind them, row number 11, drivers did not take time, but you'll find Tony Kivett, Michael Newbrod, Douglas Carlson, and Cody Ivey, a full 24-car field. Probably not the size that we were expecting. We've seen larger fields in this series, but it is a stout group with many of the heavy hitters, of course, looking for a playoff berth or just trying to protect a playoff berth that currently stands for them right now. Let's take a look at the weather just before we get started. It's a 77-degree afternoon here in Rockingham, North Carolina, with winds to the southwest at 8 miles per hour, no humidity, no fog. It is a beautiful, partly cloudy afternoon here in Sim. So expecting the track temps to be hot, expecting the cars to be slick, and expecting a lot of driver control needed to go to victory lane and, of course, keep yourself on pace with the rest of the field. Pace car will make the step down to pit road. It'll be Brian Smith and Eric Schaefer, the first 2 Chevrolets up at the front of the field. Smith looking for a win to cap off, and we go green from Rockingham, 150 laps as they sail for turn 1.
And you can see just how wide the first and two corners are and just how much banking, look how much speed they're able to carry as they go down Thunder Alley for the first time. They're working their way side by side, single file in some cases. But to the race lead is actually going to be the leader of the 78, Brian Smith, still running that free my boy Jacob as you see him getting loose. Turn 4, and that's going to be the story here tonight. These guys are going to be dragging these cars, sliding that right rear a lot in these corners because of how bumpy the track is.
And you can already see it from that first lap alone in 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4 together. Those cars are just all the way across the track, bumping every little bit with the rough surface that we have here at Rockingham. You saw an attempted pass for P2 on the opening lap in turn 3. That was not by mistake. Joe Sanchez made that move to the inside, ducked the nose on Eric Schaefer, but Schaefer, you see him running sort of a third or second line here in the middle of the racetrack. He's doing it in 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4. He was able to defend quite well against Sanchez's attack, and now he moves into second as he currently tries to get closer to the race leader. Right on board, and you say bumps, Francisco? I think the drivers are definitely having a wild ride. I think their seats need to be adjusted. They need to be tightly packed in these cars because it is not pleasant.
Not at all. I mean, even with this roof cam, as much as you can adjust the shake on it, you can still see it is shaking rather violently, and that just goes to show just how bumpy the track is. You see right there, just when you go to the low side, bam, 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 all the way around the corner. Not until you get to the really the straightest part of the straightaway with the lowest banking that it kind of smoothens out. But that's going to be the experience for these guys for 150 laps, Kenneth, and it is absolutely brutal, not just on you, especially if you have force feedback on your car, on the tires. So taking care of those tires is going to be extra valuable today.
It's going to be very hard to make control of as you watch a pass right there to the inside. That's Kyle Benson in a brand new paint scheme. We've never seen this before, but it's a Honda-esque scheme. I'm not sure whether that's an Accord or a Civic. I think it's mostly a Civic, a Type R that he's trying to reference there on the front of that race car. But nonetheless, Benson has made the move up to 6. So a nice job right there for the two-time winner the past couple of weeks. Looking for that third win in a row. He gets by Banks, but just like this track is rough, Francisco, it is rough to make passes because obviously we've seen drivers already venture to about the second, even the third lane in 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4. So it is tough to drive this car by yourself, but it's also tough to make passes because you try to defend, drivers look on the banking, the car can get really unsettled on the bottom, on the top. It's just so many factors that go into it, to the point where as a driver, you're focusing more on racing the track than racing others, and when you want to race others, it's going to be a tough task to follow.
It is not easy whatsoever to run around this racetrack, and if you can get a run on the high side like this, as you see Longslugger way up the track in 1 and 2, he's going to get a run here on the back straightaway. Not too big of a run, but if you're able to get a big enough and a run and to have positive momentum going into turn 3, you can try and send it on the inside of somebody and hope you get them clear in the middle of the corner, because it is very difficult to hang on the inside of somebody on the straightaways because the outside just gives you so much momentum. You see Longslugger now is going to try the inside. We'll see what happens here. He's able to get even, nose ahead a little bit. He's actually going to get clear for that spot, and Sanchez is just going to let him have it for now. So it looks like Craig Longslugger was able to make the inside work there. He'll take that spot, and you see behind them, Kyle Benson has joined the fray. And, you know, a little comment about that paint scheme that Kyle Benson is running there, kind of that Honda scheme. Honda won this past weekend at the Mexican Grand Prix with Max Verstappen, double podium for Honda, 3 of the top 4 positions. So it looks like the VTEC is kicking in for him.
You know what? I was just about to say the same thing with the dual overhead cam VTEC machine and the Type R colors. You got to imagine that. I don't even think he's got a V8 under there. I don't know if that's illegal or not in the sim, but I'm not sure exactly, as he's moved up to P6 and now trying to claim in on Joe Sanchez, who just got done with that fight on Craig Longslugger. And if you look at the scheme on Craig Longslugger, it's a pure example of the week that we're having here at the 4-wide series. This U.S. Navy scheme is part of a full red, white, and blue salutes sort of week that 4-wide is having. So if you see drivers with patriotic paint schemes, of course that is in design, partly because of the week to salute to the United States, all the veterans and everybody that makes a sacrifice for our freedoms here in this country. And some drivers not doing so. I think with Benson, that's definitely not American at all. But for guys like Craig Longslugger and a handful of others, you're going to see a lot of patriotic schemes, and it is, of course, to salute Tyler Murray, league owner, being one of them, and a Dale Earnhardt Jr. patriotic paint scheme as well.
obviously, Kenneth, just want to take this moment to say I appreciate all the people that make a sacrifice for this country, the veterans. We appreciate them very much. I have a couple of friends, actually, that I know personally that are in the military doing service, so it's really good to know that they're doing this for us, for everybody, so that we can be able to come out here and do what we do every week, Kenneth. And later on in this weekend, the league that I'll be running over at Kansas Speedway, I'll be running a patriotic American Airlines paint, throwing it back to the chrome liveries, if you remember those, before the new ones when they merged with the U.S. Airways. Those chrome colors are going to be out on the racetrack, honoring those veterans and honoring the red, white, and blue.
It's a very special week for 4 Wide, and of course, with many of the paint schemes, we're going to see just how patriotic these guys are with this series. And even in the Cup Series race tomorrow, we're going to see a lot of patriotic schemes, and of course, that's all good for saluting the members that make our country free each and every day. Who has broken free, though, for the race lead has been Brian M. Smith, the pole sitter, set the fastest time on the grid. And ever since the drop of the green at lap 15, he is a full 2.5 seconds in front of second place Eric Schaefer, who's now trying to fight a charging AJ Green behind him. And most of these guys have separated. The only battle you see so far is really this group right here with Lautenslager, with Kyle Benson and Joe Sanchez. These have been the guys to mostly fight for position up near the front of the field. But Brian M. Smith, up to this point, has been the quickest one, and running that bottom lane he is all the way to success over the first 17 laps of this race. And Smith, of course, Francisco, we know him as a multi-time winner in the Cup Series, a man who's eligible for the playoffs, and he is indeed eligible for the Cup Series championship this year. Not eligible for the ARCA Series championship, but he does have a win on his belt in his first attempt over at the Bristol Motor Speedway, looking again for another win as he continues to gap on Schaefer.
Yeah, and this is sort of the trend we saw, and I'm not sure if you were there for that particular race, Kenneth, but it reminds me of a league we used to broadcast called the Sunday Night NASCAR League, and they ran a race at the Rockingham Speedway, and it was very clear that clean air there mattered a lot because whoever was in the lead was able to just absolutely pull away. And even though that race was with the Cup cars, it was just a case as we actually hear cars crashing, and there you see it right there on the back straightaway, Curtis Kelly involved on a wreck.
Seems to have been other patrons involved, but Curtis Kelly seems to be the first one around and in trouble. Of course, our Myrtle Beach winner earlier this year. And the Interstate Batteries Chevrolet, sort of in tribute to Bobby Labonte's paint scheme. Not too long ago, he gets into trouble after starting in P14. He's back to P22. Let's take a look at the replay, see exactly how this all unfolded. But it didn't seem to be only Curtis Kelly in this instance, Francisco. It seemed to be a couple other cars that got into this as well. As we'll try to take a look at the replay here in just a couple of moments. It's just a bit hard for our systems to really take a moment and gather exactly what happened. But as for Kelly in this case, we'll see if we can gather a moment where it all unfolds, where it all comes down. But I guess there was a lot of trouble, really, Francisco, around this area. And you see it right there. Big hit from the 53. That's Kevin D'Elia. And just gets into the back of the 71, causing him to go around. And again, mentioned he wasn't the only one involved. Kevin D'Elia also with some damage.
Yeah, any contact with rear bumpers to front bumpers with these ARCA cars is going to unfortunately end with a spin. Just the way the Twisted Sister body lines up. And you see Joe Sanchez there actually in trouble. I'm not sure that was at the same time as the wreck, but we'll go back and check up on that because we saw Joe Sanchez there having a problem. We know he was inside the top 5, but looking at here, seems like the 78 most likely had a speeding penalty, Kenneth, and he is serving it right now on pit road to avoid any troubles.
That's Brian M. Smith stuck on pit road, and he has absolutely nothing right now to do at this point, just to wait. Eric Schaefer will take control of the lead. As of lap 20, AJ Green, Craig Lautenslager will be your top 3. As I don't believe there hasn't been any extensive damage repair for both D'Elia or the 71 of Curtis Kelly. They seem to get away mostly scot-free, which is kind of a given with these the damage model ARCA Menard Series cars. Usually you would expect a lot more damage with an incident like that, but luckily Kelly and D'Elia are able to walk away without any major damages. Curtis Kelly's going to come back down pit road. There's Joe Sanchez. I believe he also had an incident or a penalty, Francisco. We saw him in a half spin And so Sanchez putting himself in trouble early. He's going to fall back to the field as well.
Yeah, Sanchez involved in troubles as well, and that's unfortunate for him. Early on in this race, Kenneth Bueno noted that he was going to be a contender, and he was running inside the top 5. So now he's got the rest of this race to try and make it up. And we know that this race is going to go a lot quicker than Richmond, just because we know that we're likely to get a pretty good green flag run here. We saw a lot of separation, but also this track is very fast. So even though it is larger than Richmond, I believe this track is about, I want to say 0.9, 0.8 miles in length. It's very fast. So lap time here goes by rather quickly.
Yeah, lap times range around the 22 to 24 second bracket, or 24-25 rather. 22 seems a bit quick. I don't know if you're in an Indy car or not, but 24-25 seconds seems to be the range where these drivers like to float around in these ARCA cars. So it does take not too long for these cars to get wound up to speed and make some laps here at Rockingham. As we double them up, 1 to green signal from the iRacing official pace car. We will have the 22 of Eric Schaefer, figures leading a lap number 22, with AJ Green to his inside. Craig Launslager and Brandon Banks will file the drivers back in row 2 before you find Austin Riddy, who's made a real trek through the field so far. He's up to a P5 with Jacob Denson to his inside. Actually, Riddy in 6th, Jacob Denson underneath him in P5. As the 22 to 48, they will double up. 22 lurking for the outside wall, and they will just wait for the iRacing pace car to make that left down to pit road. It'll be all on the discretion of the 22 to go ahead and command the field. The Kodiak Chevrolet up and away, and we go to turn 1, back under green, lap 23.
And you see a good start there for your leader. He's able to get well ahead of the rest of the field. You see Green actually trying to pose a little bit of a challenge there on the inside, but able to close the gap up just a little bit. Single file through the top positions for the most part. You see Schaefer going up high once again, probably trying to feel it out, but it is allowing AJ Green to keep with him.
AJ Green going to keep himself within the crosshairs. 22 looking for the middle lane, actually going to skirt up as the 48 now gets a nose in, so we may have a battle for the race lead here soon enough. 48's going to be able to tuck back in as the 22 clears, but it seems apparent that the outside line is working. The 22 getting way close to that outside wall, and the 48 looking for a duck underneath. But so far, top 3 have broken away by a couple of seconds as the 88 and the 45 battle for 5th on back. But they have made some huge separations from themselves and the rest of the field so far.
I don't believe Tyler Reddick's in our race tonight, so Eric Schaefer is definitely trying his best to make an impression of him running that high close to the wall. But you don't want to do that too much. You see him right there, right up next to that wall. I've never actually seen them, even when they used to run here, get that close to the outside wall. I'm not sure the track ever really got to that point, just such a tight radius that you could probably run about where he is right now, but you don't want to get that close to the wall. You see Green poking nose to the inside, but unable to do anything with it, and that just shows how tough it is to run that bottom and how much momentum you could carry around this racetrack up by running this outside line.
And that 22 looking for the exit on the corners, and that's where he's really beating that 48. 48 kind of gets that center of the corner speed, able to put the nose inside, but as soon as they come off the banking, that 22 machine is able to really run away. And Eric Schaefer, I don't think we talk about this enough, just how close he's been to race wins over the season, not only in the ARCA competition side, but on the Cup side as well. I can recall first race, Auto Club Speedway, where he was in the top 3, had a good shot at the race win as the caution flies again for the second time tonight. Schaefer has been rather close to victory lane a handful of times, and he hasn't been able to get through, as actually Brian M. Smith with some troubles on the back straightaway, and into the wall he goes. Still fighting a rather loose race car here, getting up to speed. And the Free My Boy Jacob car has just found some trouble in the same place that Curtis Kelly and Kevin D'Elia did on the first caution.
And you have to wonder if this is partially due to the fact that whatever penalty he may have had on the last pit stop set him back here. And you see right there, trouble. It looks like he was involved with the 46 at Harcum. You see Tyler Murray actually tagged the wall. He's on the outside. Smith actually just gets loose on its own, and no contact with anybody else at any time. But you saw Murray also have a little bit of trouble further up ahead. Maybe he got into the outside wall as well. But right there, just apron, and around he goes on his own.
Just snaps the apron, and that's another critical point of crashing, I think, at this Rockingham Speedway, is just how that apron really grabs the race car. And I know I've ran street stocks here a while back, as It was actually Tyler Murray that hit the outside wall entering turn 1. He had his own troubles, but right there, that apron just grabs a 78, goes sideways, and bam, into the inside wall he goes. As for Murray, he actually had some damage on his own. I think tagged the inside wall just a bit off of that tag right about there. 8 gets loose, actually hits the outside wall, then hits the inside wall. So there's a double whammy there for the 8 machine of Tyler Murray. I don't believe it's going to be terminal in terms of his repair for the race car, but for Tyler Murray, that's not what you want to see. And for Brian Smith, after early dominance, it seems he's having trouble.
You see him right there back on pit road. I'm not sure if he's had to use the fast repair. I don't think he's used it exactly, Kenneth, but this has definitely hurt him, and I believe he's already lost a lap. So what looked like it was going to be a show of Brian M. Smith really putting it on, it looks like he's going to have to fight adversity if he wants to have a shot at getting that win.
Unfortunate for Brian M. Smith. We'll see if he exits before the pace car comes out, although right there actually going to hit the line, so he's going to avoid being put 1 lap down. I believe there may have been some other issues as well with guys like Lance Hill. I'm not sure whether he had a crash on his own accord, but he's down pit road now, 7 laps down and counting, so Lance Hill may be out of this race for good. Also to note, Kyle Benson is a driver that did use a fast repair, so I guess behind the scenes there may have been an incident with Benson that forced him to toggle that fast repair, maybe use it on pit road, or maybe it was just a mistake on his end. But nonetheless, Benson with damage repair early, so he's going to fall back, and that is really shaking things up, Francisco, in the opening 30 laps. I wasn't expecting this to happen at all.
Yeah, we had the opening 20 laps were a green flag, and the last 10 have definitely proven to be somewhat chaotic. So let's see what is to come of the next fifth of the race. We're already 1/5 of the way, 30 out of 150. Eric Schaefer definitely trying to make up for last week, Kenneth. He's proven to be fast. Yeah, even with the issues to Brian Smith, he was running second that whole run. So if there's anybody to take up the mantle, it will be that 22. And who better person for him to be battling with than the guy he was battling with a week ago in both races, AJ Green.
AJ Green, quick at Richmond, but same deal for Eric Schaefer. I think Schaefer had a dominant run at Richmond. Of course, that last lap scuffle with Kyle Benson ended up finishing 25th and looking for that redemption here on the opening 31 laps. Also want to welcome a fellow driver that we used to broadcast on the iRacing Bungeon Lawn Care Series, Cole Williams, in the chat right now, talking about how fun this combo is and with the treatment that iRacing gave it a couple of months ago. I think before the Road to Pro race, they had a lot of great multi-groove racing. Some drivers able to find grip up at the top of the track. And it's going to be a lot of fun to see when these drivers get sailed on for lap 32 on forwards, as the pace car will make its quick left down to pit road once more. And after I believe our second caution, or third caution of the evening rather, we're back under green. Pace car is down. Eric Schaefer up and away. AJ Green to follow him back to turn 1.
Another clean restart for your leader, and they're going to try and settle themselves out through the rest of the field. And it gets harder the further back you get, because you're trying to make up as many spots as you can. You see them double wide back there, but single file towards the front. Schaefer able to hold on to the lead. He's going to run the outside. AJ Green's going to get to his inside, it seems. But with that outside, Schaefer should be able to hold him off. As you see the hornet's nest back here, that is this mess. Kyle Benson's actually at the tail end of this. Probably came down pit road. Look at that move by Reedy, splitting the middle, able to get to the inside. As Kivik gets into the wall, he's going to now have Colin Forster right behind him.
That's a huge group right there from about 9th on back, led at one point by Cody Kinsey, still leading this group of Tony Kivik. There's Colin Forster to the outside of formerly stricken the 71 of Curtis Kelly. For our first yellow, Michael Woolley. There's Kyle Benson on the trot back up to the front of the field, and it's getting real dicey up here, Francisco. I mentioned earlier just how hard it is to make passes at the Rockingham Speedway. It gets very tough, but when you have combos like this, 2x2, a couple of rows deep, it does not get easy as you're out on board with Michael Woolley in the 69.
Especially right there, you see Benson was trying to figure out what he can do to try and make up this front position and continue attacking. We know Benson has a very fast race car here today, and he's having to make up some track position. And right now, in the middle of this hornet's nest thing right there, he's going to get loose, and he's actually going to get turned by the 69 of Woolley as we were on board. A big crash involving those two.
Huge crash, multiple others involved. I saw Christopher Bishop, Tyler Murray. You see them both caught up in it. on the inside wall entering turn 3, but you were riding on board with Michael Woolley just as it struck. And it was a move up to the top. I believe Benson was just trying to clear. And all of a sudden, we have mayhem once again at the exit of turn 2. Watch this as the two were trying to battle a little bit into turn 1 and 2. Benson had the advantage. Woolley tried to look up top, still had his nose in. And Benson, I think, just looks like he got loose and then tried to correct it. Got up into Michael Woolley, who got his back bumper. And then you can see the other one's getting caught up in it as well. Tyler Murray, also a victim in this one. He was further back in this instance, but as they're checking up right about there, he's going to hit the 42 and get loose by himself as the 42 goes hard into the guardrail on the inside. But again, just a case of that 10 machine, Francisco, getting loose again. Right on board with the 69. You'll see where it all begins and where the 10 moves up.
Yeah, we were on board when this happened, and you could see the 10 get loose on the inside. And as soon as that happened, he felt he had to protect that position against the 69 of Woolley. And unfortunately, it was too late on that one. The 69 had gotten to the outside, resulting in the 10 turning himself.
It's going to be an interesting sight right there. You see the little bit of a bobble and a bit of air time on 2 wheels as Benson goes to the inside wall. And I did mention in one of the previous yellows, Benson did use the fast repair, so as for the bank, he pretty much has nothing left in it, and Benson is just going to have to take time to repair that car on pit road, and indeed, you'll see a couple other guys getting out, but as for Benson, he is just stuck there trying to repair the damage. I think the lucky thing for him, Francisco, is that we're at a rather short track, so it's not going to be impossible to keep speed, even with some crinkles on the right front or the front or wherever the rear. Doesn't matter where the damage is, but for Benson, you got to figure that was one of the hardest hits he's taken. And with that fast repair burn, it's going to be very, very difficult to get back up to speed and at least put himself back in contention for the win with a speedy race car.
Yeah, but you have to also realize that this is a very fast short track, Kenneth, so the aerodynamics do matter to an extent, and knows what kind of suspension, toe damage is on that race car, because maybe on the outside it looks fine, but who knows what's actually going on in the internal workings. Maybe the steering wheel's bent a little bit and he has to turn right and or left on the straightaways to try and hold it straight. So who knows what's going on behind the wheel of that 10, but with no fast repairs, doesn't matter what kind of damage he has, it is not going to be easy.
There's Christopher Bishop in the 42, the Wounded Warrior Project Chevrolet. I believe he'll be looking for a fast repair this time around on pit road. He has yet to use it. I believe he just took it right now. Actually, no, he's still taking damage repairs, so he's going to hold on to the fast repair for the rest of the race. As for Tyler Murray, the league owner has taken a fast repair, so his car is fully clean. Michael Woolley also holding out hope for damage repair on pit road. Gonna look for that fast repair for later, but meanwhile, lights are out for the iRacing official pace car. And how about Colin Forrester up in the race lead after starting near the rear? He's gonna have control of the field back at lap number 40 of 150 with Kevin D'Elia to his inside, the driver who was involved in the first yellow tonight. Interesting combo, Francisco, as everybody continues to shake up at this point.
Yeah, with differing strategies as far as what people are choosing to do on certain pit stops and what you have. So it looks like Colin Forster trying to do something different to gain some track position. We know he started deep in the field. Maybe thinks that a little bit of old tires is not going to make too big of a difference, but this is not about leading the race for him. This is about just trying to gain overall track position relative to where he was.
So we'll get things started here. Lap 40 of 150. Still a rather long way to go. We've had a couple of cautions bring us under rest, but we'll see if Colin Forster and Kevin D'Elia can lead them back to green safely. They are on 10-lap old tires. As Forster hops on the gas, he'll be able to clear D'Elia and the rest of the field back to turn 1. It's side by side behind them between Schaefer and Kinsey, but could expect these guys to catch up to the top two rather quickly as you ride on board with the 22 of Schaefer.
Right here with Schaefer, and hopefully we don't jinx the onboard this time once again, but riding now in that third position, you see D'Elia in front of him, and you see this battle back here between these other guys on tires trying to work their way up as well. Lautenschlager in this battle. You see right there the 93 of Kinsey. You see AJ Green working his way through as well, but the top two have so far done a pretty decent job but you can't help but feel that soon enough those tires are really going to start to work through, because that difference is definitely going to show itself at some point or another. And right now, look at this big run that the 22 gets here on the front straightaway. He's going to go to the inside, and right here we should see him take this position. He actually slides up a bit, misses the bottom, but that added grip should give him a little bit of a fairer chance there than you normally would have on that low line, and that should give him the position 3 or 4, and it does so right there. He's able to slide up just barely in front of that 53, but it also invites the 13 of Lautenschlager into that battle. He's going to now put a fire behind the 53 and trying to keep him on his toes. So Schaefer still a little bit under attack, but now he can try and set sail to catch up to your race leader, Forrester.
And on the old tires, you can imagine that with the rough surface, it gets rather apparent between the guys on fresh rubber and the guys on worn rubber, as Schaefer looks for the outside line. He's going to try and catch Forrester for now. This time, it's Craig Lautenschlager on the attack to the Campbell Budweiser Chevrolets. He ride on board with the Ford Taurus. Look to the inside here. Look at all the drivers running that top, Francisco. I don't think we'd imagine people running the very top, running the wall. I know Kyle Larson has done it at multiple other tracks, but even he didn't do it at Rockingham when he got the truck win back in 2013. So to watch these guys rip the wall at Rockingham, certainly an interesting sight to see, as the 53 is not able to make the wall work yet, and Lautenschlager moves inside. Here comes AJ Green for position as well.
Yeah, it seems that you want to run the top, but the very high line that I'm seeing most people run, they enter a little bit low, they let the car slide up towards the wall, and then they kind of diamond off, you know? They kind of let the car slow down as they climb the banking, and then they turn down. You see right there, Schaefer turns down as he takes the lead away from Forrester this lap. We'll see as he goes into turn 1, he'll enter high. Not all the way, though. He'll slide up in the middle of the corner, and then he'll turn down on exit and get a really good run, make that back straightaway longer, and that's how he's running this racetrack.
And take a look at it. Uses the middle, slides up, puts the gas in through the bumps, and then just rides it out back to the tri-oval section here at the Rockingham Speedway. Let's take a moment to appreciate a lap here on Rockingham with your current race leader. And that's how it's done. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say Eric Schaefer's making it look a lot easier right now than it is being behind the wheel of one of these race cars at this track. And if we talk about it so much, the package of these ARCA cars, low downforce, pretty high horsepower, and once again, like we talked about at Richmond, even though that is the case for these ARCA cars, you can't imagine what it'll be like tomorrow with the Cup cars. The Cup cars at this racetrack, they run the 750 and low spoiler package, which is even less downforce and more horsepower than these ARCA cars. So if they're having a fight to these race cars like they are right now, you can only imagine what tomorrow night's race is going to be like.
And tomorrow night, that's going to be a lot of fun when we kick things off at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. You're going to see sort of the same group of people that we see in the ARCA Series run here in the Cup Series at Rockingham. And it'll, again, much like it is tonight for the ARCA Series, it's going to be a first-time appearance for Rockingham as Austin Reedy makes a daring switch over to the inside on three-time winner this season, Joe Sanchez. And Austin Reedy, Francisco, 19th to 5th, a total of 14 positions gained as he'll cross the line this time by after completing this pass. Reedy has been on the move, and much like many of the other short track races and our broadcast of those races as well, we've mentioned how strong Reedy is on these types of tracks and how good he can be. He has just yet to complete a race and get a win to really call himself the short track king. But Reedy on an early charge in the first 50 of this race, up to now P5 and catching AJ Green in that 48.
And there's been no in between for Austin Reedy. He's either had to leave the race early because of other complications he's had in the personal life, or he just gets involved in wrecks and doesn't end up winning the race or being in front when it matters most. So it's going to be interesting seeing which end of the race he is at tonight. We know that because of the situation at hand with all those DNFs, that it will take a race win for him to make the ARCA Series playoffs, but also the Cup Series playoffs. So if you want to see a driver that was very strong and actually right in front of him, a wreck, a good avoidance by Reedy, but Forrester gets tagged into the outside wall. He goes and he gets barely a miss there by one of those white cars. I believe that was Cody Kinsey.
Caution comes out once again, and You saw it just in front of your screen, much like with the Kyle Benson, Michael Woolley incident. A crash on the front straightaway, though, this time, as the 99 was battling the 13 of Craig Lauenslager to get collected. And what a job by Austin Reedy to keep that thing straight and not with any damage. As we'll take a look at the replay and see exactly what happened between these guys up at the front. It was a battle, of course, between that 13 and the 99, but it'll get very dicey here up at the front as Craig Lauenslager moves to the inside. Doesn't seem to be a problem in 3 and 4, Francisco, but down on the front straightaway, that's where it gets real close, and that's where the contact happens.
So you see right there, Lauenslager able to come through. AJ Green comes off the bottom, and I don't know, Kenneth, it doesn't look like there was actual contact in that moment. They were definitely going to if there wasn't. They were definitely going to, but it looks like just barely not actual physical contact that sent them around. And that's what resulted in that. You see a good save there by AJ Green, but if we can get a slow motion view of this from a straight on angle or overhead, I don't think they actually properly hit. Those two did, but look at this on board with Reedy here, just how close it was. All of a sudden, just sees them going around, breaks the car, and good miss.
Wow. You know, they say brown pants moments exist in racing.
Oh, yeah.
That's one right there. I think he's got a splash in the underwear instead of on the car, on the hood. But, again, look at the contact between the 48 and the 99. And you'll see it in a little bit right there, I think, Francisco. Just the difference in lanes right here. The 99 going up the track, 13 looking for that bottom, or the 48 rather. He kind of swings up, 99 swings down. And the contact is made. Luckily, no significant damage other than this wall hit from the 99. Green is able to escape through the grass cleanly. But apart from that, just two drivers racing in their own lanes, trying to find the most momentum. And unfortunately, they get collected together.
And I don't know if that was Cody Kinsey or not, but whoever squeezed by on the outside definitely had another brown pants moment. As you see right here, as this car comes against the wall, see right there, someone's got to make a decision. And it was Kinsey. Look at that miss.
So we had one brown pants moment. Now we have another brown pants moment with a white car. Take a look at this. Hole in the wall.
In the same wreck, too.
Unbelievable job by both of those drivers to keep those cars collected and without any damage. Kinsey able to survive for 11th. Austin Reedy able to hold on for P3, as I believe these guys did in fact hit pit road. Yes, they did. So Eric Schaefer, your race leader, followed by Craig Lauenslager, Austin Reedy, Brandon Banks, and Charlie Harcum, your top 5. As for AJ Green, he falls back to P15, and I believe there was a penalty issued for the cause of incident on that 48 machine. So indeed he is there slowing down, let a bunch of other cars by. He would get an end-of-line penalty by race control for that contact with Forster. Forster is going to go by, but both of them going to lose out a lot in terms of track position. There's Kyle Benson on pit road, who we mentioned burned a fast pair earlier on tonight. He's continuing to get damage repair. But as to note, Brian M. Smith, your pole sitter tonight, has just left early. He's pulled it behind the garage. His race is over tonight from Rockingham.
A lot of our typical race winners today have been struggling. Kenneth Joe Sanchez had that trouble under that one yellow. Still runs in this race, just hasn't been able to make up a lot of that track position. Kyle Benson, he's damaged. He's most likely out of the winning contention, that is. Brian Smith has pulled out of the race, so that goes a lot of your race winners so far this season. So that really gives an opportunity for someone new, someone to capture an opportunity of a race win. And this is big for a guy like Eric Schaefer. You can get that revenge from last week. You can make up for that loss that you experienced not once, twice, and capture a well-deserved win after those two performances. But also Craig Lauenslager, he won a couple races last season. He's trying to get back to victory lane. Austin Reedy hasn't won this season. He wants to make the playoffs as well. Brandon T. Banks is up there as well. He wants to make up for Michigan. So many different people are looking for a big opportunity, but only one can do it. The pace car's ready to come off pit road. We're just over 1/3 of the way into this race, and a good launch there by Schaefer. He's going to be well out in front.
Solid run for Schaefer to command the race field back to lap 59 of 150. 13 now inside of 88 of Brandon T. Banks is going to be able to make the pass complete, but Schaefer so far in control by more than half a second to the rest of the field. Schaefer coming into this race the highest running driver in the playoff standings on points without a race win. So he continues to lead laps as it was a big moment of looseness right there by the 11. Almost contact between himself and Charlie Harcum to the entrance of turn 1. They seem to keep it collected together as, again, most of the field going side by, or at least single file, some side by side. Here comes Harcum now, almost an attack on the 11. We're going to hold back this time.
Yeah, Reedy had a moment there, and he's going extra defensive on this 46, trying to make sure that he stays behind him. Not sure how much more patience this 46 is going to show, but is able to stay behind him for now. Reedy able to hold on to the 5th position, but that does put Joe Sanchez up in the 4th. I mentioned he was struggling to make up some of those positions, but he's done that this restart, and now he's up inside the top 5 in that 4th position, trying to see if he can see what's going on with the tires, see if he can make any moves, at least see if there's a long run that he can double down on, because as we mentioned, Kenneth, the tracks that he's won at, they've all had long runs on these old surfaces, and without Brandon Smith being here, we know that he was definitely fast on that long run. We'll see who is the standout on long runs here as these guys continue to progress. So you see up there, almost a battle for the lead. Schaefer running that outside lane has not exactly been the fastest, but it's kept in the lead whenever somebody goes low.
Good look from Joe Sanchez back and forth to the battle for the race lead that lasted for just a moment before Eric Schaefer was officially able to keep himself cleared of that 13 and be able to be on his way, continuing to lead laps. And that 13 of Craig Launslager, it's not like we haven't seen him in contention for wins before in this series, but he has just yet to find that coveted checkered flag. And I can recall a battle between himself and Joe Sanchez back in Darlington a couple of weeks ago. Again, a very rough track, a bumpy track, a very old surface, and Launslager over the long runs was really able to keep those Goodyear Eagles underneath him and gain some speed over 30, 40, even 50 lap runs on end, but just could not find the best of Joe Sanchez and finished ultimately second in that affair. So the 13 does have a lot of old track speed, much like that 55 does. Only difference is he has yet to find the win, but he could get closer to it if he catches up to Schaefer and makes this pass.
Yeah, he's been close, but not quite able to do anything with it. And it goes back to that line that we see the 22 running, able to make that outside work, just pulls away on these straightaways. The 13 exits right on him, and then he ends up with this gap in the corner. You see the 22 climb up the racetrack, 13 turns left, gains a little bit, but right here on this back straightaway, with that straightaway being longer, you see the 22 just inch away. And this is just a continuing yo-yo cycle, as you will. It looks like Launslager's trying to see if he can make something work, trying to see if he can run that lower line. He's going to have to get a little bit aggressive and really put that car on the apron. We saw Cole Williams in the chat say if you could run that yellow line and really make it work, it really hooks up. But not to mention that normally would be the tire-saving line, so you might be able to help yourself on the long run if you run down there, but also it's definitely advantageous when you can give yourself different options to be fast instead of just having to rely on that outside lane.
See multiple drivers expanding to the inside, the outside, the middle, wherever they feel comfortable, they seem to run it. As there's multiple battles throughout the top 10. There's AJ Green, who we saw drop back. That incident, end of line penalty, along with Colin Forrester, who lost all the track position via the spin. Both of them are back up to 9th and 10th respectively. And they're kind of sort of a dynamic duo, the Stock Motorsports teammates running along with each other. And they're sort of carving through the field in the same pace as each other as they try to climb up to the 00 of Jesse Prees and make this pass that will move Forrester up to 8th. And if AJ Green can follow Forrester in his tracks, that'll move AJ Green up to P9. So it'll enter them in the top 10 for the first time after that spin and after that yellow flag. As I believe I saw a couple of drivers like Jacob Denson and Curtis Kelly kind of spread around for position. They lost a bit of track position based off of an almost spin, but for the most part, they seem to be okay. And they continue to run on the racetrack all fine and dandy. There's Austin Reedy now. Pass for 3rd inside. Brendan Banks not going to look for it just yet. He's going to tuck behind the Geico Chevrolet. Reedy looking for that win. Banks looking for the playoff berth in points. Both of them still looking for any sort of advantage they can get as Reedy tries to step into the top 3 for the first time tonight.
You see Reedy backed up his entry there, trying to make sure that exit's better despite running lower on the racetrack. And sooner or later, you feel that Reedy's going to get that position on Brandon T. Banks. He's carved his way through the field, and he's definitely matching lap times, if not going just a tad bit faster than your race leader. So if he's able to get by this 88 of Brandon T. Banks, he can start running them down. We'll see if he tries a different line, Kenneth. He's definitely trying to run that bottom to see if he can get by the Brandon T. Banks machine. But right now, Brandon Banks running his line, trying to take it away from him, forcing Reedy to try something different.
So Reedy will continue to adapt and see if he can get around Brandon Banks, maybe bring Joe Sanchez along with him for the ride. As we'll keep an eye on those two. We'll keep tabs on how they fare out as we look again at the top leaders, as Craig Laudenslager again tries to look underneath Eric Schaefer, has yet to find any successful route to get by your current race leader. Got a question over in the YouTube chat, and it asks, what's a movie character you once related to? It's kind of an odd question. I'm not sure I've related to characters sort of on an emotional level. I don't know. I've seen people who related to Joker in that movie back in 2019. I don't think I've had a relation moment with any movie characters or anything. I'm not sure. Francisco, maybe you have an answer for this, because I don't think I have in any case. I'm not sure.
You know, when I was 12 to 14 years old, probably the character I most related to was the character of Greg Heffley. You know, I was very similar to him in many occasions, many instances with my thought process, where I was with myself and how it felt like at times, just, you know, his situation, how he dealt with things. I didn't write anything. I didn't have, you know, a diary or anything by any means, but that's kind of how it felt sometimes, and just dealing with things and going by certain things with a certain level of logic. That's kind of how I was at that point in my life. And, you know, just reminiscing on that definitely sometimes makes me question why I did certain things, but it's not exactly a regret point, just how we are at that point in your life when you're in that 12 to 14 area.
You know, that makes me feel bad for not having an answer, because that was deep. That was something. There's Colin Forrester underneath AJ Green, and off of turn 2 a couple of laps ago. We'll take a look at this. This is 3 wide off turn 2, not casual here at Rockingham Speedway. I expected them to get in some sort of contact, but they did not. They were able to keep it straight. Take a look at this as they were coming around the 53 of Kevin DeLee. I mentioned that Forrester and Green were kind of in a duo, the two teammates, on the way up to the front. This gets really close with the 53 in 1 and 2 as they go 3 wide.
Yeah, you saw there the 99 had got loose off 4, allowing AJ Green to get to the outside of him, but also D'Elia was on the outside, so they were going 3 wide, and a very acute entry for Forrester, and it looked like it allowed AJ Green to take 2 birds with 1 swoop, able to get in those 2 positions on those guys. Remember, AJ Green had gotten that EOL to restart at the tail end of the field, and he's worked his way up well inside the top 10, having recently passed his teammate Forrester. But you see the gap he has to the next car, and Forrester actually tags him just a little bit in that corner, but it actually hurts Forrester more than anybody. He's going to lose 2 spots, maybe 3, as they go towards turn 1. Tyler Murray going to go by as well, so a big loss there by Murray as he tagged his teammate, and he's actually going to get into the wall here, so it's not over yet for the 99 of Forrester. He's going to lose another position here, so looks like Forrester had a very interesting lap 77.
It was a massive checkup out of the 99 to get out of harm's way from hitting the teammate in the 48, and all of a sudden, he has dropped 1, 2, now 3 positions on the racetrack as the 48 will lurk by himself. Now here comes Kyle Benson. We mentioned him with some damage after being involved in an early incident on the back straightaway. Well, that Honda machine is back up to snuff, and as he goes around the 48, he's going to have the opportunity to move himself into P8. In the latter half of the top 10 as they almost make contact, the 48 and the 10 almost collect together. Luckily, they're able to keep it clean. Now Green, much like Colin Forrester, is falling out.
That shows how powerful that outside lane is at the moment, Kenneth. He got to the outside, and look how far back the AJ Green machine has fallen. But also, that goes to show what's under the hood of that 10. That VTEC is just not letting him in the back. He wants to find his way to the front.
Benson now on the attack. I believe we have side by side behind them. Indeed we do. There's Green just trying to hold on to the defense here as Murray and rookie Jacob Denson will look to the outside using the wall in 1 and 2. And just like they were moving up to the front together, Francisco, the Stock Motorsports duo has fallen back together as well. So they'll move back to 11th and 12th. This time Green being in front of Forrester instead of the other way around. And they are all still trying to catch up to race leader Eric Schaefer. We'll take a short moment to go side by side, but you won't miss a thing here from the Rockingham Speedway as we continue round 16 of the 4Wide Racing ARCA Series. Schaefer up in front of Lauenslager. Back live from the virtual Rockingham Speedway in Rockingham, North Carolina for round 16 of the 4Wide Racing ARCA Series, and there's a damaged Craig Lauenslager on the racetrack. That was due to an incident with the driver of the 88, Brandon T. Banks, on the back straightaway coming into turn 3. And if you were looking at the side-by-side, you would notice just how close Banks got to the rear bumper of that 13, and that resulted in the 13 getting turned up in the wall. And with now heavy damage, most likely going to have to resort to the faster pair here. Francisco, walk us through this incident. And I think we were getting close to witnessing a pass for third, but unfortunately it ended up being a dump for third, rather, as Banks gets into contact.
You see right there, it looks like the 13 was making a defensive move, leaves the outside open, which would be a gift normally. Take that outside lane if you can, but Banks just follows him down the corner, and we've talked about this several times. You bump with these ARCA cars, and it'll lift the rear tires off the ground, and nothing that the 13 can do in that instance. He was at the mercy of Banks.
Not sure whether Banks was looking for the push, but of course with these ARCA cars, it is practically impossible to hook yourself up with a rear bumper, because at that point it really hooks the car around and makes the car in front of you lose control as it goes almost on two wheels. As you'll watch again out of turn 2, Banks has the run, 13 kind of gives him the space. Banks tries to look for the bottom, but instead hits the rear bumper. And it is a hard slam into the inside wall for that 13. And then again, just ricochets back up the track. Fortunately for Lauenslager, he does not get anyone else involved in it, so he doesn't get additional damage to this contact. But unfortunately for Lauenslager, who had been doing so well up until this point, he uses the faster pair. Now he's back to 10th. I think that's a good thing for him, but he did not want to see that happen, as he was still holding on a second and still trying to catch up to your race leader, Eric Schaefer, at the moment.
And that run was definitely rather a quick run, Kenneth, because just as quickly as this yellow came out and we're getting ready to reset here, we'll have about 60 laps to go in the race. So we're definitely well past halfway in this race. So it's going to be interesting now, because we've seen guys try to stay out on old tires, and it wasn't exactly a bad move. But on a short run of about 2 to 5 laps, we saw Forrester and D'Elia try it, and they didn't exactly get squirmed immediately. So we'll see if somebody late in this race tries to stay out, try to do something different, maybe some 2 tires But right now, I think it's given the fact that we don't have tire sets, we're going to see 4 tires all the way through. And speaking of tire sets now, Kenneth, it's going to be very interesting in tomorrow's Cup race with the tire sets, what these guys decide to do, because this place is a tire chewer on the actual wear and the time charts. So we'll see what they decide to do tomorrow. It's going to be very interesting.
That's going to be a great conversation point tomorrow night when we kick off with the Cup Series, and those drivers are going to have to really strategize when they're going to go down pit road and what tire sets are they going to use, how many are they going to use over a span of time, and how they're going to try and maybe save some for the end of the race. For the ARCA Series, it's unlimited tire sets, so no worries about that here tonight, but just to keep that in mind, we'll be kicking things off tomorrow when the Cup Series heads to this very racetrack here at the Rockingham Speedway. Well, we're ready to get green at lap 90 of 150, coming across 60 laps to go from the virtual rock. It's Eric Schaefer and Joe Sanchez, 22:55, back to the green flag.
And it wasn't that big of a jump for your leader, Eric Schaefer. Joe Sanchez, who's been promoted now to P2, is right there putting the pressure on your race leader. And Joe Sanchez, who struggled through that early middle portion of the race, Kenneth, he has found himself back up front. But also somebody else who's found himself back up front is that Kenneth Benson. Your 2 3-time winners are in this top 3 right now. And look at Joe Sanchez trying to go for the lead. 2
playoff leaders versus the driver who has yet to find a race victory this season. There's Sanchez in that housing belt machine underneath the 22. He's going to find the door and get loose underneath him. Now here comes Benson to fight for third as well.
We saw them both get loose off the corner, so that's what really allowed the 10 to catch up. But Schaefer, loose on the outside, runs way too high. That gives the lead over to the 55. It's not over yet. A car loose off turn 4, and it looks like Joe Sanchez could take the lead here as he goes through 1 and 2. Schaefer trying to stay on the outside. What a move. He's going to try and stay there, and he has the run off the corner. They'll remain side by side, and this is part of the good battling you'll see at Rockingham.
Still no convincing leader out of the top 2. Just to confirm, that was Brandon Banks who got loose off turn 4, but it's Schaefer on the offense this time. Now going to play defense once again as he uses the high line to take control of the race. A very close moment by both the 22 and the 55. But what that has only allowed Francisco is allowed third on back to catch up. Benson, we mentioned in this conversation. How about AJ Green after contact with teammate Colin Forrester off this very corner right here? He's in the mix for fourth as well. As here comes Sanchez. Almost a move there. And not enough space, though, to even look for the inside, as Schaefer doing a nice job to keep himself up front. What a job to keep himself there under that pressure.
It's very tough to combat that outside line, especially when it's a diamond line, as we see the 22 do it. He's been able to do it the best, I believe. Just able to really get the car up close to that wall, use maybe a little bit of wall proximity, but also just get the car to turn down and not abuse the tire. That's probably been one of the most impressive things. He can slide it up towards the wall, turn downwards on the racetrack, and not eat his tires up. He's kept the lead, not just by doing that, but also keeping the tires under him, and that's been rather impressive. And right now we're seeing them stack up a little bit behind Joe Sanchez and Benson. They're all running this outside line now. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do here as we complete lap number 95. The lap's just ticking by quickly, Kenneth. We'll see who decides to make a move and who decides they're going to save some tires to try and put on a charge later in this run.
And it looks like so far, nobody really has had the prowess to really catch up to Eric Schaefer. Even on the long runs, felt like Schaefer still has a quick car, even using that outside lane where a lot of drivers can presume it is really tough on the tires at a rough track like this. But it seems like so far, Eric Schaefer is really able to be content over the long runs up at the front. And now coming to the final 60, I don't believe, Francisco, you're going to be expecting a pit stop anytime soon, just because this is a rather short track. These guys got 75% fuel, so mostly they can be able to stretch it all the way to that amount of time, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe from this moment on, we won't necessarily have pit stops for fuel, apart from, let's say, any tire changes that may happen under caution.
Yeah, I also don't believe we should have any fuel concerns at this racetrack, it being as short as it is. As you see a move now being made for the lead, just to quickly finish the point, the fuel here should be close to, on a normal fuel fill, close to 100 laps. So when you do the 75%, that should be 75 laps. We went green with roughly 60 laps to go. Fuel is not a concern for the rest of this race, Kenneth. especially considering I believe we'll still see some yellow flags thrown, and they'll come in for tires at least, so that means they'll come in for fuel. I see AJ Green now get around Kyle Benson on the outside, so move AJ Green up to third, and you see just how difficult it is to make a pass on the inside. Joe Sanchez 2 laps ago was side by side for the lead, and now he's half a second behind your race leader, so it's very difficult to make that bottom work against that 22.
And we also saw Kyle Benson work the inside, and then all of a sudden off turn 2, you just looked at a 48 machine, this red 48 machine, come by to the outside, sweep past, and now it's AJ Green who currently holds third out of the top 4 drivers that have pulled away. This is the driver just behind this group, Jesse Prees in the 5th position, a solid run for that driver so far after starting in 7th here tonight. So you can watch exactly where he is on the racetrack. He is currently ahead of the 45, Jacob Denson in his machine, Tyler Murray, Craig Laumslugger there with Brendan Banks. They're all on a trio for themselves, just inside of the top 10. And that's Michael Woolley trying to defend against Kevin D'Elia so far for that 10th position. Austin Riddy lurking back in P12. Well, as we're pretty much more than halfway through tonight's race, let's take a look at our race summary, which is always presented by Supermix. Your current race leader, Eric Schaefer, after starting on the outside of row number 1. He's been dominant ever since. He's led the most laps tonight. We've completed 101 out of the 150 scheduled for this race, with about 49, now 48 laps remaining as Schaefer crosses the start-finish line. We've had a total of 5 lead changes and 5 total cautions for 20 laps. That's your race summary presented by Supermix. We continue to watch the drivers up at the front battle for position. Jacob Denson still following through to Jesse Prees, who is catching up to the top 4, but mostly through that. Not a lot of commotion through this field. I guess not up until now. Austin Riddy able to get into the top 10 for the first time in a while after some troubles earlier on tonight. You see everybody now migrating up to the top, and like you mentioned, Francisco, the Diamond Line working here at Rockingham. You probably wouldn't expect it here out of all places, maybe at a lot of other shorter tracks, but drivers like to let that car simmer up through the middle, maybe the top lane, and then try to arc the car with the throttle back down on the track, and it seems to be rather effective and doesn't seem to be too hard on tires, I don't believe.
And the different lines haven't exactly been too different on the tires. Yeah, you're right about that. And it's interesting because you think about the iRacing service, what they normally do with their track properties. Usually there is a line that saves tires, and I think it's that yellow line. But the problem with that yellow line is that it's been very difficult for cars to hold it down there. And if you get it wrong and hit that apron, we saw it happen to Brian M. Smith, it is very easy to lose that car. And not to mention the amount of speed you can carry down the straightaways when you run the top. And considering it doesn't wear the tires out too much, it is worth the gamble of running up there, and you're seeing it pay off. If you get to the outside of somebody, that is the position game.
That's a good look at exactly just how well that outside line here is at Rockingham. That's Kyle Benson. You were looking at the onboard cam from the inside of the race car. This is out of the front nose, and he is not close whatsoever to that yellow line. Neither is third, neither is second, and neither is your race leader. Benson with a run on green. Not going to make a move just yet. He's going to continue to stay behind. Back in P4, where he'll look to challenge the driver in third. And now here comes Jesse Prees into the top 5. And maybe cramming into 4th and 3rd if he can get this momentum. He's picked up a lot of pace. He so far seems to be one of the fastest out of the top 5 so far.
Yeah, right now running some quick laps. And you see right there, to the inside, it seems that Benson will go up AJ Green trying to make a move on the bottom. You can't help but feel that might not exactly work out. He's trying nonetheless, but you see right there a little bit behind them, just another car joining the fray trying to get into this action. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all works out. Jesse Prees, Kenneth, he's been rather consistent the last couple races, and it has really been showing. He's been getting those results that we know he can, and right now, look at the speed he's carrying. As he actually tags the wall, he's going to stay hooked onto it. He's going to lose that time he gained.
Unfortunate for Prees. He is going to be able to keep 5th with minimal damage on his cars. He comes back to turn number 1. Probably won't be terminal at all. Just going to be a little scraping. Going to continue on his way. But he is going to lose a lot of that time to Benson and Green, who, mind you, continue to fight for 3rd on the racetrack. Meanwhile, it's a 0.6 of a second gap between 2nd place Joe Sanchez and the 22 of Eric Schaefer. There's a tale of two stories here, Francisco, between the two drivers. We talked about Eric Schaefer looking for redemption after multiple opportunities to win a race in the series. Sanchez looking for his 4th on the campaign to beat Kyle Benson in the playoff standings. Sanchez has had a lot of success. Schaefer has had a lot of heartbreak. There's two different stories on this table here, Francisco, in the final 40 laps, and Schaefer still getting closer to that first race win.
And it's still under 40 laps to go, 39 now, Kenneth, as he crossed the line. Still a ways to go. We know that it's not over until the last lap once the checkered flag is waving. As Schaefer would know from Richmond, the very last lap is when it comes down to it at the end of it all. And he wants to make sure that he can get there, complete that last lap, and come across the line first before anybody else does, to know that he has won. Still a ways to go. Anything can happen. We can have a caution, or even some of these guys further back can start building into that, or gaining into that lead that he has, and maybe put on the pressure in the closing stages of the race. But speaking of pressure and closing stages of this race, look at this battle back here in the lower portion of the field. Longslugger looks like he has a little bit of damage on his race car on that right rear. He's trying to soldier on after having that big crash down the back straightaway with Brandon T. Banks to bring out that last caution we had. So far, not doing exactly a bad job, but you can't help but feel that he lost that track position he worked very hard for.
Yeah, Longslugger was back to, remember, he was up to 2nd fighting against leader Eric Schaefer, and now he is just forced to hold on for 9th as the caution comes out. And I believe it may have been cause of the 48, AJ Green. We saw him up in the outside wall. There is some significant damage to the stock motorsports car. We saw him in a fight side by side with Jesse Prees. Is going to hit him directly. I believe he is not happy at all with Prees. And Prees is going to get slammed by Murray.
Oh, interesting development going on here, Kenneth. I'm not sure exactly what the deal is here. We'll have to exactly see what started this wreck, and then secondly, how we ended up there with Murray. So we see Prees and Green battling for position here. This is for the top 5. Looks like right there, just like what happened with Benson and Woolley. It looks like, and he gets on his side like Martin Truex Jr. did a couple years ago at Richmond in the Xfinity cars with this sort of body. You see right there, Prees thought he was clear for position, or thought that he can slide up and maybe hold off that advance by Green on that outside lane. Just too little too late. Into the outside wall goes Green on his side, 2 tires, and looks like the 00 has his fair share of problems. They keep going, but obviously a car on its side is going to bring out the caution. But now, to continue here, Green not happy, and neither is the 00, but I'm not sure what happened here. You see Prees continuing on the front straightaway, and Green's actually going to run right into him, and as that 00 goes spinning, tries to lock it down, doesn't have anywhere to go, and sits in the middle of the racetrack, and unfortunately, one of these guys is going to run into him, and it sucks that it's going to be Tyler Murray, the league owner, that gets into him right there. Just nothing he could have done, nothing neither one of those two drivers done. That's going to be 100% on AJ Green.
Unfortunate there for Green. Jesse Prees is pulled to behind the garage. His race is officially over. And as for Green, who got caught up in that incident off turn 2, I believe he's going to be able to keep on to 5th. So Green won't lose out too much as he does burn the fast pair. Everybody did hit pit road this time by. So just to mention, everybody is on fresh Goodyear Eagles from now on. But for Green, he's going to be able to keep it. For Prees, his race is done back in 18th, already a lap down, and most likely will finish behind Cody Kinsey, who's on the track 4 laps down in 19th. So a very dramatic sequence here at Rockingham. There's league owner Tyler Murray to fix all the damage on his Chevrolet Monte Carlo from the incident there with Prees. And you could tell Green was definitely not happy, as I believe now he gets an end-of-line penalty. The race control did not seem fit to go for the retaliation there. And he's going to get punished for it. AJ Green, his 2nd penalty here tonight after contact with Colin Forrester earlier in this race. Francisco, things just got spicy from Rockingham, to say the least.
They did, and that just turned the race on its head right now with under 35 laps to go. And, you know, I'm not sure if the EOL was the correct penalty there on the with that AJ Green machine. You mentioned 2nd incident. Also, we saw that retaliation effort I don't want to say specifically what, but I feel that maybe something stronger should have been done, a little bit more of a harsher penalty. All things considered, with the incident that they were involved in, it got Tyler Murray involved. We don't really want to see any retaliation acts like that on the racetrack where you can get other cars involved.
Unfortunate there for the both drivers, and Preece, who was doing so good up until this point, will not live, at least in this track, to another day, or to fight for a position. And Preece is just going to have to look forward to next week at Daytona to try and find a win in the series, as AJ Green going to fall all the way back. We'll double them up here on lap 118. Going to go green on lap 119. It's race leader Eric Schaefer in control on the outside lane, followed by Joe Sanchez, Kyle Benson, Brendan Banks, and Craig Launslager. Your current top 5. Also, a positive note there for Launslager. He's back in contention for the win in that top 5. So, a good thing to see out of the driver of the 13. Pace car comes down. Schaefer will lead us back to green. And with less than almost now 30 laps to go here from Rockingham, Schaefer looking to finish this race off successfully.
And a good restart for him, but Joe Sanchez right on his tail, not letting him get away, not letting him breathe. He's going to make sure that if Schaefer is going to win this race, that he has made him work for it. So as we come across to have 31 laps to go in this race, it is still a dogfight between this top 3 to try and see who's going to come away with the win.
Schaefer now looking for the middle, has yet to migrate fully to the top. Benson has cleared everybody else for third so far, as Launslager now peeks by Jacob Denson, is going to peek in on Brendan Banks. These two made contact earlier in this race with the 13 hard into the inside guardrail. We'll see if they end up in sort of a tussle here in the final 30 laps. We crossed 30 laps to go. It's Eric Schaefer so far in the race lead, but Joe Sanchez is climbing, and he has not given up just yet.
And you can see rather single file for most of the field, already having a pretty decent spread. So if they're lucky, if these top drivers are lucky, they're able to battle it out with each other for these next 30 or so laps, and are able to fight their way for the lead. As actually almost into the outside wall goes the 22, really using up all this racetrack, trying to pull away from the 55 of Sanchez. Equal separation for most of the top 5. You see about 3/4 tenths covering each of these cars, and you have to wonder just when is someone going to break into that gap and start to battle somebody.
Could imagine that, but I want to pose you a question here. As Joe Sanchez continues to try and catch up, Eric Schaefer now ahead by more than half a second. If you're Sanchez in this case, or even Benson, what do you try to do here in the final 30 laps? Do you want to bank on more yellows? Do you want to bank on mistakes out of the 22? Or what can you do driving-wise to impact your frontal position in terms of battling with Schaefer for the race win? What can you really do behind the wheel to adjust?
The main thing in this situation is just try something different. If you're trying the same thing and it is not working, then you probably got to try something different. In this situation, we're seeing him run the outside just like the 22, and it's not exactly working out. We saw him try to run the bottom earlier. It didn't exactly work out either. So it is difficult once you've tried those main 2 lines and nothing's really working. The only thing you could probably try to change is your own inputs. Try to maybe brake a little bit earlier, get back on a little gas sooner, and maybe get back on the gas sooner, like I said, but in a different aggression, like maybe use the throttle a little bit less, but have enough to spin the tires enough to keep the car rotating, little techniques like that. And they add up lap after lap, but you don't want to get caught up in a battle. He does not want to battle Benson, because that'll just allow Schaefer to get gone. And who knows, Kenneth, maybe Schaefer was holding back some pace. We saw him not really able to pull away from anybody these last couple runs, and now he's able to do so on this one, so maybe he was holding back some pace.
And now that last time by, he was almost about a full 2 tenths quicker than anybody else in the top 5. It was a 24.691 out of the race leader, a 24.844 for Sanchez, 24.847 for Benson, and then behind them in Brinks and Launslager, it's a 24.7 respectively. So Schaefer is somewhat picking up the pace again, full 2 tenths faster than second place Joe Sanchez. And now here comes Kyle Benson to the inside. He's not going to find it, a bit loose out of turn 2, and now maybe bringing Brendan Banks to the conversation for podium as well.
Brandon Banks with a solid recovery after that EOL for getting into the back of Craig Launslager has found his way back into 4th. Look at Austin Reedy now in that 5th position. Remember, he has to win this race if he wants to have a chance at the playoffs. I believe we still have one race after this at Daytona, Kenneth, but it is running out of opportunities for Austin Reedy.
Definitely is. He needs to pick things up rather quickly, and as we come closer to now 20 laps to go from the virtual Rockingham Speedway, Reedy is looking at the hourglass in the sand, just trickling on by. Battle for second continues to heat up. Benson yet to find a way around Joe Sanchez, but they are both in turn losing time to the race leader. A full 1.5 seconds separate Joe Sanchez to Eric Schaefer, the race leader. So Schaefer has pulled away, and right now it's all about what second on back can do as Benson just smacked the outside wall.
Into the outside wall goes Benson. He is trying everything to get around Joe Sanchez, and all this is doing, Kenneth, just look at that gap increase up to 1.5 seconds already for Schaefer. And you have to wonder, is he using his tires up? Is this the pace he was hiding? We don't know because we haven't seen this out of him quite yet in this run. But judging off this aggressive battling of these two, that he is just having more pace in the bank than these guys have, and he is using it at the right time. But if we get another caution, did he show his hand too early?
I think right now it's certainly apparent that Schaefer has the better pace, as everybody beneath second has moved into the 25-second bracket. Schaefer staying within the 24.9s that last time by, so it is certain that Schaefer just continues to hold on to this pace while the rest of the field holds back. And you gotta also imagine the battles for position have slowed these guys down. Now Benson will lurk to the inside. The Honda Civic Type R gonna break early, bottom hug. The yellow line in 1 and 2 gonna have almost an advantage on Sanchez, but again, they continue to slow each other up as Schaefer looks to run away with it with 18 to go.
18 laps to go for Schaefer, and you don't want to give it to him yet, Kenneth. We know that a caution can still happen. We know anything can still happen for that matter. But look at this run that Benson got there off the corner. He's going to get right to the rear bumper of Sanchez. Doesn't really do anything with it right now. As you're on board with this Honda machine, he's trying to find a way around that Chevrolet, see if he can battle up and get to that second position. They're over 2 seconds out behind Schaefer. At this point, they're going to need a caution to catch up to him.
A talking point earlier tonight, it's hard to pass on that inside lane, and it just continues to get more difficult for Benson. He has yet to find a way around this Sanchez machine, while they are still losing more time to the race leader. Coming to 15 laps to go, Benson has lurked all across the racetrack. He's been up, he's been down, he's been all over the place, but he has just not found neither the speed, the grip, nor the momentum to even get close to the inside, fully inside of Joe Sanchez for second. And that's only allowed these guys to catch up. Now here comes Lounslugger, Austin Riddy now, Brandon Banks, these guys coming up for the title. And these guys definitely not making battles within themselves, but they're also losing time to the leader. So kind of a lose-lose situation right now.
Yeah, everyone's going to be hoping for a caution, and if one does come out, it goes back to what we talked about. Does anybody stay out? Does anybody try a strategy? We know that Schaefer has been good with, obviously, the lead, but even when he lost the lead and restarted in that third position on the opposing strategy, we saw him able to get up to the lead, but it did take him some laps. So if we get under 10 laps to go, under 5 laps to go, does somebody decide to change only one side, or does someone decide to say, to heck with pit road, I'm staying out on the racetrack, giving myself track position, all I have to do is hold on for 2 laps and try to make the best of it. Who knows who will try it, and who knows if we'll even get that yellow. We got 13 laps left to witness to see if any of that is even going to play out.
I don't think Eric Schaefer will want to see that at all. He does not want to deal with the complications of pit strategy, tire strategy, late in the race in a green-white checkered scenario. He knows how tough it is mentally, physically, and in everything beyond to hold on for a green-white checkered on old tires or any sort of tires really for the rest of the field. And now coming to 10 laps left from the virtual Rockingham Speedway, Schaefer still has the opportunity to go for the race lead. Benson struck the outside wall though out of turn 2. It was an attempted pass in turn 1. And now here comes Banks. Benson again into the wall. Banks now with a head out front for P3.
Banks trying to see if he can slide up in front of that Honda machine for P3. He's going to be clear, not quite, but he's going to get it here in 1 and 2. Benson up the racetrack, actually able to keep his nose in there. The outside in 1 and 2 has really proved pivotal, and it down the back straightaway. It keeps Benson in this battle, but in 3 and 4, you have to think the bottom should help him a little bit more. Benson actually able to really keep it in there, and that should be the position right back to Benson, and he's able to keep that momentum.
But again, Benson is just going to lose time here. Banks continues to nudge his nose back to the bottom. I believe it's a full clear. Benson going to strike the wall once more. Not going to affect him as heavily into the corner. And Banks again going to clear back. And he's going to have to hit the reset button. Try once more for third. And it'll simmer down. But Benson now just losing more time to the race leader. Although Schaefer was a little bit slower. It's concluded back to 1.1, so this race may not be over just yet, Francisco, with 10 laps to go. Last time by, it was a 25.623 for Schaefer as he gets tight. Now here comes Sanchez, 25.5 last time by.
We pondered the question, Kenneth, was this hidden pace or was this using the tires up? And with 9 laps to go, when he comes across the line, Sanchez continuing to close the gap. So maybe Sanchez saved his tires a little bit better than your race leader. The gap closed in another several tenths of a second. Actually, it's down under 9/10 of a second. You have to wonder, does Joe Sanchez get there? By the time it's the last lap, he might get there. Only one opportunity to do anything with it. You see the gap visually continuing to close. It's going to come down to the wire.
Did Schaefer use it all up too much in the front part of this race to pull away? We'll find out as we come to 7 laps to go. This time another 10th gain out of Joe Sanchez, the last lap by. So it is clear Sanchez does have the pace. The only question is, does he have enough time to make a move? And can he even make a move with how dominant we've seen that outside lane be, even with slower cars? Can Schaefer still hold on for defense? It's going to be a big talking point now. Here's Rear on board with the 22 of Schaefer, your race leader. There's the gap starting to close in. Banks has made the pass for third complete, so he's now in the stage for the podium. But it's all the focus right here. 6 laps left, coming to 5 left for the virtual Rockingham Speedway. Schaefer now looking in that rearview mirror.
He has to keep looking at mirror because Sanchez is absolutely flying. You see right there, a little bit loose off the corner for the 22. As we look at the times this time, it was 0.6 of a second, the gap last time by. It's closer to half a second this time. It is going to take 1/10 each lap for Joe Sanchez to get to the rear bumper of your race leader. And at this rate, it is going to happen around 2 laps to go in this race, Kenneth. And my God, it might happen a little bit sooner because look at the big gain he made there in turn 3.
That's a big 3 and 4 for that Housing Belt Chevrolet. And now the 22 starting to feel the pressure as we come to 5 laps to go. There's Sanchez, outside move, gonna look for the nose, gonna have the diamond. Here he comes inside turn 3.
Where's the pace on this 22 gone? He absolutely was flying, and now he is slowed down. Now goes back to the outside. That defensive line that he's been used to running, he's able to keep the momentum high. He'll lead this time at the line. Now he forces Joe Sanchez to run the bottom. They'll switch this time. Sanchez trying to go to the top. Schaefer trying to cover up that line. He doesn't want to give it up. If he gives it up, that's probably race over for him. He goes high. Sanchez peaks down low, and they'll repeat this again through 3 and 4.
Now the problem is, can Sanchez get around him as we come to 3 laps to go? And they're also inviting Brandon Banks into the conversation. Look at him gather this speed up. So this race is far from over. 3 left from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. Here comes Sanchez outside.
He gave him the lane. That's going to give him the spot because Schaefer is just absolutely done. He has no tires remaining. Joe Sanchez to the lead.
Sanchez, remember we talked to him, 3 wins on the season, was tied with Benson after Benson went 2 in a row. There's Banks to the inside for second. 2 to go for Sanchez.
2 laps to go. What a power move there and 1 that last time by. And look at Schaefer hitting the outside wall. He's actually going to get to the outside of him, but he's going to stay into the wall. He has damage to the race car. Brandon T. Banks actually going to get in the back and then around goes Schaefer.
Schaefer around. Will the caution fly? The answer is yes. Sanchez in the lead, and the caution waves, which will put us in a green-white checkered territory for the first time tonight.
What a sequence there, Kenneth.
Whoa.
I can't believe he went for that move there in turn 1. He did what Kyle Larson did at Darlington earlier this year. He did what Carl Edwards did at Kansas many years ago. He just went in there, hoped to stick it against the wall. He got to the outside of Sanchez, but fortunately for both of them, no wreck came out of it. You see Sanchez turned down the racetrack, got away from him, and then Schaefer, after that occurred, he was just trying to hold on for that second position. Brandon T. Banks was like, I want to take this spot. I have a better chance of battling for the win. And as soon as that happened, around goes the 22. You see right there, just fully sends it, and it gets to his outside, almost hits him in the right rear, and that could have been very catastrophic for both of them. And right there, a little bit loose, tries to stay defensive against this 88, and hard into the wall with that front bumper flying off. That's the second week in a row that it'll be a win not for the 22.
Absolute heartbreak for Eric Schaefer. Lost the lead with a handful of laps to go, and his race may be over in terms of for the race win. Here come the leaders, though, down pit road. We talked about tire strategy, how that might matter to the end of this race. Who comes out first? Sanchez first, Brandon Banks to second, Kyle Benson moved in the third. Here comes the exit, and it's Schaefer gonna slide in, but it's Charlie Harcum.
We got several two-tire stops here. It looks like the top two decided that they're going to roll the dice. Charlie Harcum trying to go for his first career win in the 4-Wide Racing Series. Colin Forster trying to go for his first in the ARCA Series. They'll be your front row for this restart, Kenneth. So someone did try to roll the dice. It's only 2 laps. So as long as you're able to do it for 2 laps, you should be good. You see Joe Sanchez is going to restart in the 3rd position with Kyle Benson down in the 4th position. So this is going to be a very interesting restart, Kenneth. Someone actually tried something, and we'll have to see if this works out.
You pointed it out while we were coming to the final stage that if we were to end up in this point in a green-white checkered attempt, somebody was going to try something. And in the case for Harcum and Forrester, who had been kind of meandering through the middle part of the field through most of the night, now have a chance to win this race. But it was a 2-tire call for both of them. It looks at around 9.3 seconds for both Harcum and Forrester, so they were even on that end. It is 2 tires for them. Again, fuel's not a concern, so it's all about the Goodyear Eagles on this one. And it's going to be a front row gridlock on old tires on one side versus fresh tire power for pretty much everyone else. Sanchez, Benson, Launslugger, everybody behind them, all will have fresh tires. And we will get the green flag with only 2 laps to go. So we will extend this race because the caution was flown before the leader got to the white flag. So here's how we'll do it. We'll set them up for the restart with 2 laps to go. Just like this, just like every other restart, we'll go green. If the leader makes it to the white flag, then of course the race will finish as is. Whoever crosses the line will win. If we do get a yellow, though, before the leader gets to the white and crosses the start-finish line, then we'll rack them up and do it all over again. We have a total of 3 attempts to get this race finished. If, of course, we exhaust all 3 green-white checkered attempts, then whoever was in the lead at the moment of that last caution will be the winner here tonight from Rockingham. It's a 2-tire call for Harcum and Forrester. Everybody else looking for the win on 4 fresh Goodyear tires. Harcum and Forrester not winners in the ARCA Series. Benson and Sanchez tied for most wins in the campaign this year. Reedy and Launslugger looking for their first. Anything can happen in the final laps of tonight's 150, now 155 lapper from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. Pace car gonna make the soft left to pit road. It's the B&H Racing Chevrolet of Charlie Harcum. The meme car on Colin Forster, your first row on the oldest tires seemingly in the field. Pace car is off. Harcum with a sluggish start, but we're back under green. First attempt at a green-white checkered.
Forster actually got a worse start, but Sanchez is already to his inside, so that should be the second spot for Joe Sanchez, but he's struggling. He's struggling to get by Forster on that inside. The 2 tires having enough grip to really allow for that outside to be viable. That is costing Joe Sanchez valuable time to get up there. You see right there, he's going to maybe use up the race car just a little bit. Forster's hanging tough. This is looking good for Harcum.
Following back, white flag in the air for the B&H Racing 46 of Charlie Harcum. Forster now with a send to turn 1. They're side by side for 3rd on the freshest tires. But Harcum now just a little bit more before he can call himself a 4-wide Racing ARCA winner. Forster dives to turn 3, but Harcum, the rookie, on 2 tires, will walk away with his first 4-wide Racing win at the Rock.
Impressive stuff there, Kenneth. And we talked about it all in the last 50 or so laps. Does someone try it? Does someone go for the 2 tires? We saw it work earlier in the race that for 2 laps it was definitely viable. Charlie Harcum did it, and he gets his first win. As we see a wreck after the line, looks like Schaefer involved in that one again. And you see Benson congratulating the Rook on his first win. And it's about time that in the ARCA series, Kenneth, we get a first-time winner. Normally, that is something we see in the Cup series.
In 4-wide racing competition, let's take a look at your full field results. See exactly where everybody finished at the end of 155 laps. An extended green-white checkered finish with Charlie Harcum, the rookie, your race winner. Colin Forster comes home with his second straight top three after a third place finish over, or a top three finish over at the Richmond Raceway last week. Kyle Benson ends up in the top three, just not as the race winner. He'll come back for third. Joe Sanchez, charging move near the end. He ends up in fourth. Austin Reedy will bounce from 19th on the grid to P5 at the end of it all. Craig Lautenslager, early success, late troubles, but a good rebound for sixth. It'll be seventh for the seventh machine of Tony Kibbett. Curtis Kelly will come home after an early spin tonight for eighth. Jacob Denson revives for ninth, and Eric Schaefer, heartbreak near the end, will suffer for top 10 here tonight.
Looking down through the rest of your field, Michael Newbraw recovering to an 11th place after a quiet evening. Michael Woolley was involved in one of those early wrecks, but salvating a 12th place finish. Christopher Bishop, higher than where he qualified, so that's a good result in his book for the 42 machine. Kevin D'Elia involved in, I believe, the first caution, finishing in the 14th position. Tyler Murray, unfortunately, involved in that wreck after the caution with the retaliation attempt by AJ Green, finishing in 15th and the last car on the lead lap. And speaking of AJ Green, he finishes 16th, only car one lap down. Brandon D. Banks had something happen on the under that caution, and it results in him finishing in the 17th position. Cody Kinsey finishing in the 18th position. Brian M. Smith had troubles early after leading the first 20 or so laps in this race. Had some sort of penalty, got sent to the back, got involved in a spin, ended his race. Chris Hill had troubles early on as well. He finishes in the 20th position. And your last couple of cars here to round out the field, Ricky Rosner in the 43, finishing 21st. Jesse Prees, who definitely went much longer into the race, I believe, than that. So actually this could be a little bit of a negated result, unless he got DQ'd. That would probably mean why he was down in 22nd. But in the 23rd position is Douglas Carlson, and in the 24th and final position is Cody Ivey. But yeah, Kenneth, I think Jesse Prees may have gotten some sort of DQ because he was definitely much closer to the end of the race than some of those other guys.
So we'll see. That is unofficial results. So, of course, we will get word from the officials and the race council on whether that result will be finalized for tonight's race here from the Rockingham Speedway. But it is our time to take a moment and talk with your race winner, the man who took 2 tires to victory on the final pit stop of the race, held on for the final 2 laps. And now, Charlie, you can call yourself a 4-wide racing ARCA winner. Walk us through that decision, because I know that must have been right on time to maybe give yourself a shot. What went through the mind of you behind the wheel as you guys were coming down pit road for that final stop?
Yeah, when we came in, I mean, we weren't fast enough for the top 5 for sure. And, it's coming down to the end here, and I was thinking, you know what, let's give it a shot. We'll put 2 on, just see what happens. Maybe something crazy will happen behind us. I think a couple other folks did, or at least one did. I think Colin did. And so I thought, well, at least we got one person we'll be able to race with, and maybe that'll give us just enough time. We only needed 2 laps. So really happy. Took a shot, gambled, and it worked out.
Well, I'm not sure whether we're in Rockingham, North Carolina, or whether we're in Las Vegas, Nevada, because that was a gamble for the ages for this win. And for you, after multiple tries, I mean, this was your first full-time season in four-wide competition in the ARCA series. You've shown a lot. You've been in top 5s, top 10s, but it finally never came for a race win to come to your favor. So what does it mean for you now tonight to not only make that gamble, but to finally put yourself in the column of 4 Wide Racing ARCA winners here tonight?
I mean, I'd be lying if it doesn't make you kind of feel like you at least belong and you know you can keep up with some of these guys. I mean, even though we kind of wanted on a little bit of strategy, I mean, that's part of race. I mean, we saw that in NASCAR just this weekend. You know, if your pit crew can get you done, it's definitely more than just what you're doing on the track. It's decisions you make throughout the race, and so you know, we're not gonna turn it down. It's a victory. It gets us into the playoffs, and so now we got to make sure we can run in the top 5 a little more consistently. So yeah, we're glad to be here. Pretty exciting.
And that's a large point that you make just now. Not only the fact that you're a winner here in the series finally, but you're going to be fighting for a 4 Wide Racing ARCA championship this season. I know it came rather late. Rockingham, we've got only one race left at Daytona before we finally conclude the 10. So for you now being a newest entrant into the playoffs for the title, what's the approach for you guys moving forward? Does it change dramatically? Does it kind of stay on the same course? So what are you guys looking forward to Daytona in the last race of the regular season, and will we kick things off for the playoffs at Bristol in a couple weeks' time?
Yeah, I think once Bristol rolls around, that's when it'll get a little more serious. Just, you know, now that we're in and we got a shot just like anybody else does, or the rest of the people that are in the playoffs. So next week, you know, Daytona sometimes is a coin flip no matter what you're doing. It is a bit of a relief to have it done now and not have to think you got to win at Daytona, because sometimes that's a 50-50 proposition just to even finish the race. So yeah, we're fortunate we got it done now in advance, and then once Bristol rolls around and the rest of the playoffs, we can we certainly still got plenty of ground to make up. I mean, we're not the fastest out there, but you know, maybe keeping up in the top 5, and who knows, we might have some more pit strategy to pay off for us and work in our advantage, and you know, you never know what might happen. So we're super excited.
Got the win, check. Got the playoff berth, check. And you walk away with a very big win here tonight from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. Before we let you go, Charlie, is there anybody you just want to thank for making all of this possible? Any teams, any sponsors, or just anybody overall you just like to thank for this opportunity?
Absolutely. So B&H Racing, myself and Jacob Denson are participating in this season, and we got a couple other drivers, but just he and I. So you know, thank them for everything, you know, helping us get out here. B&H IT Services, that's our primary sponsor. Y'all go check out their website, and anybody in need of IT services, small or big companies, whatever it is, they do great work. So we appreciate that. And yeah, really excited. Glad for 4 Wide Racing to have us, and certainly thank you to you guys for broadcasting. You do a great job and make it exciting for everybody who's watching. So yeah, we're excited. Looking forward to the next few weeks.
Well, we certainly appreciate the support, Charlie, and thank you so much for the time here on this winning night here from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. Again, congratulations on the victory here, and we look forward to seeing you at Daytona and the start of the playoffs at Bristol in a couple weeks.
10-4. We'll see y'all. Thank you.
That's Charlie Hardcomb, race winner for the first time, and just like that, he's going to be joining the other 9 drivers in the chase for the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series title in a couple of weeks' time when we hit to the famous Bristol Motor Speedway and the last great Coliseum. But the 46 of Hardcomb, the winning driver, was not the only one to take a 2-tire call near the end and have it work out for him. It's Colin Forster who ends up with a second consecutive top 3 finish at a short track. He finishes second as he's right alongside Francisco Bacalhau on pit road.
Well, Colin, we saw 2 attempts at 2-tire pit stops there at the end of the race, and it was the top 2 finishers that come away with that strategy. So I want you to take us through what was the mindset going into that last caution, and what made you decide to take the 2 tires, and did you think it was going to work?
Honestly, I've just been noticing through the race that the left sides were definitely not wearing as much as the right sides, which is usual for most tracks, except for road courses. But yeah, I was hoping I was the only one who thought of it, because I knew it was going to be, I thought it was going to be a little looser than it actually was, but I'm glad it wasn't. But like I said, I wish I was the only one that took 2 tires, but guess he was thinking about it too, and just a little unfortunate, but hey, finished way better than I was gonna anyway.
And on the topic of that, I was mentioning to Kenneth on the broadcast that the goal of 2 tires sometimes isn't exactly to go out there and win the race, but just get a better finish than where you probably would have been had you had followed the leaders, if you will. And that's the case for you. As you mentioned, you were somewhere around that 10th position, if you will, and you're able to come up with a second place finish. So in your book, despite all the troubles you had in the middle portions of the race, that to come up with a second place finish on this strategy is definitely a big win for you.
Definitely. It was I was definitely not running well all race. I joined in a little bit late. Never ran laps on this track in these cars. So it's definitely an experience. Glad we got some green flag runs in. Hopefully we can get some in tomorrow as well. And I look forward to tomorrow. Hopefully I can do a little bit better. But if not, second place is fine with me. I can't do much better, but hopefully I can get a win, but I don't know. I'm not very good at saving tires on this track in the Cup cars, though. But, yeah.
You mentioned it there that, you got green flag laps and it was your first time driving these cars on this track and the Cup race tomorrow. So what were you able to learn here tonight that you can use going into tomorrow's race? And not to mention the fact that tomorrow's race will have tire set limits versus no tire set limits here tonight.
I think definitely probably just learning like the braking points and how to save tires a little better, because I noticed on our chat I was a little bit better on the tires than the other guys, but they were faster, so it's hard to say. I'm not too good in these cars though. I'm just trying to get better, and hopefully I think we go to Daytona next week. Hopefully I can get a win there, make the playoffs maybe not. If I don't, I'll still run ARCA probably. I enjoy this a lot. It's a lot of fun every week. Wasn't as caution filled as I thought it was going to be, so that's always a plus. And hopefully it was a good race to watch.
It was a good race for you, Colin, a good result, and many teams, many sponsors, many people make this happen. Who was it that made it happen for you tonight?
Just all my teammates and Stonk Motorsports, and everyone in the league for having me. I wouldn't be racing in this league if they didn't allow me. And just shout to you guys for doing the broadcast. I know races aren't good sometimes, but hopefully this was a good race to watch. And like I said, thank you guys and everyone in the league.
Yeah, I think Kenneth and I can agree. It was definitely fun to watch up here from the booth. Colin, we wish you luck going forward. Congratulations on the second place finish. Good result for you. I enjoy our battles on track occasionally. We hope to have you have a good result tomorrow night. Good luck.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
That's Colin Forster for Stock Motorsports, who comes home in P2 in that 99 machine just behind your eventual race winner. We'll take a step back and have a moment to talk with Kyle Benson. And Kyle, it was a top 3, not the race win, but still a solid finish for your Honda Civic Type R. We've been having a little bit of trouble trying to identify it over the course of the night, knowing it was a different paint scheme. But nonetheless, I mean, this race, I think, taught you a lot, I believe, from behind the wheel, because he went up front, ran up for the lead, ran up for top 3, have a crash in the middle of the race, and then come back to finish in P3 after starting in P10 on the grid. So what incited you after that sort of roller coaster of emotions through that crash and trying to pick yourself back up for the rest of the race?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I had a little bit of a pity party to myself for a little bit to pull myself back in and actually drive the race car instead of yelling at myself. But other than that, luck and strategy. I mean, I took tires pretty much all the time, and I guess I was having really good pit stops. So, just had the pace of a top 5 car, and with that caution coming in, I think that solidified it. So, other than that, I mean, I was just kind of surviving for the longest time.
And of course, survival was the name of the game. You end up, though, in a position in the final laps, that green-white checkered restart, attempt number 1. You had a shot at the race win after starting just on the outside of row 2 with Joe Sanchez behind the guys on 2 tires. Did you feel there could have been more out there in the final laps to get yourself closer to the win, or you felt like that was kind of safe and sound where you were already?
I mean, if it was maybe 5 laps longer, I may have had a shot, but I didn't know 2 tires would be that good here. So, it was a good call with Charlie and Colin. They made a really good call, and I figured everyone's going to take 4 tires, and I didn't think 2 was going to work out well, or I would have taken 2. So, if it would have been longer, definitely, but I think with that being like a 2-lap dash to the finish, I think third place was not too bad.
Indeed, third place for the Honda VTEC machine, which I don't think we usually say often in V8 stock cars. But
It's the old Honda Roddy.
Yeah, we joked about it earlier on the broadcast that the VTEC was kicking in at some point. The revs were up there. But
yeah, I mean,
nonetheless, Kyle, I mean, this is a sort of a double adventure for you on this racetrack. Tonight is the first attempt at Rockingham. Tomorrow will be your second, this time with a NASCAR Cup Series machine, the Gen 6 cars. So I think Francisco makes a good point in that question to Colin Forster. I'll toss it over to you. What notes have you made here from Rockingham being a debut track in this series, knowing that tomorrow you're going to be fighting in sort of a same car with a little bit more power under this same sort of track conditions in a fight for the playoffs on your end?
I mean, just more saving tires is gonna be pretty much the name of the game. The top side may work. Is what I was looking. I kind of like came in like 15 laps into the run, so but just saving tires really. I mean, that's pretty much what this track is. It's so abrasive. I mean, you run 3 laps of the Cup car and you're already down 2%. So it's like, you know, you're pretty much gonna be saving the tire from lap 1, and whoever can save the best tires can win. That's
a lot of notes taken. I figure there's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow night after what was a great race here today, and you end up finishing third. Kyle, before we let you go here tonight, is there anybody you just want to shout out for making all of this possible? Any teams or sponsors, or just anybody you just want to give the love and shout outs or thanks to?
TMR Designs and Big Fast Racing and Murray Riddy Motorsports. Great bunch of people to work with. Everybody comes to the 4 wide each and every week and dealing with my stuff. So. And just you guys with broadcasting us and putting us on the old airwaves, and you know, and I've really been enjoying the broadcast, really been enjoying the series. So if anybody wants to run in a series, and it's fairly clean most of the time, if we're not on 1 mile tracks, you know, it's a great time. But other than that, that's pretty much about it.
Well, Kyle, we certainly appreciate the time. Want to congratulate you on the third place finish here tonight from the virtual Rockingham Speedway. And of course, we wish you the best of luck, not only for tomorrow night's Cup action here from Rockingham, but next week's action for the finale of the regular season over at Daytona next week.
Oh boy, thank you.
Kyle Benson comes home in third, the final driver of our interviews here for tonight's action. Francisco will toss things up to the broadcast booth, and fair to say that we took a lot of things to bring into tomorrow night for the Cup Series race after seeing what happened at the Rock here in this event. I know it was a wild final 2 laps, a pitch strategy call by Charlie Harcum, and just want to give credit to him before we even toss up to our next conversation topic. I mean, what a call. Him and Forrester made the 2 tires. We probably didn't expect it to be as effective, but they held on, and Charlie Harcum becomes a first-time winner.
And it goes back to that first caution we had earlier in the race, Kenneth, when those 2 guys decided they were going to stay out on old tires, let alone take 2 tires. They stayed on old tires, and they made it work for several laps. One of those people was Colin Forster. He used those notes to make that decision at the end. You heard him say the left sides weren't wearing that much, and he went for a gamble. So did Charlie Harcum. It worked out for both of them. They came out with the top 2 positions, and it was risky because it's such a tire-wearing track, but considering it's only 2 laps, if you're able to do it for at least one of them, the other one should be a little bit easier.
Well, Charlie Harcum makes that call, and it is official from the point standings. Charlie Harcum will join the 10 drivers that will fight for a 4-wide ARCA Series racing title over at Bristol Motor Speedway when we kick things off. Still have 1 more week to go at Daytona, but now we move forward to the Cup race tomorrow night. That's going to be big because, like Kyle Benson said, saving tires is going to be big. Joe Sanchez also pointed some notes out about how the Cup cars are going to handle. So what can we expect out of the 750 horsepower package at a track like this tomorrow night?
I think we'll see a lot more rear tire wear as opposed to the fronts. I think it'll be more rear limited just because you have that extra horsepower than you do with these ARCA cars. You have a little bit less downforce as well. And you're just running such a high speed here. You're trying to put full throttle down. We saw a lot of guys get loose, a lot of guys really sliding it. And those bumps, we know that the Cup cars, they handle those bumps. They just hop up and down, and they jump a lot. So when you get a little bit of air time, that contact patch surface decreases, and it goes right back to slamming down. That's really going to chatter those tires and make them spin a whole lot more than they want to, and that's what's going to cause a little bit more rear wear. So I think we'll see a lot of slipping and sliding tomorrow. but also I still don't know exactly what we're expecting, just due to the fact that the last time I covered a league at this racetrack with the Cup cars, it was definitely at least a whole calendar year ago. So I don't remember too much from then. iRacing was also pretty different back then, so it's basically like going in for the first time all over again.
Definitely is first time for the series, first time for the field, and first time in a very tenuous part of the regular season to get into the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series playoffs. But that does it for our broadcast of the 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series from Rockingham. We'll have coverage next week on November 16th from Daytona. That'll be the final regular season race of the campaign before we kick things off at Bristol on November 30th. But tomorrow night, catch us on MaxSpeed TV, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, where we'll kick off the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series as they also get close to the end of their regular season from the very same track, The Rock. We'll see whether anybody becomes a first-time winner, much like Harkham here tonight, or if we see repeated success from many of the playoffs' heavy hitters. So for everybody at the 4 Wide Racing League, for Tyler Murray, league owner, and everybody from the race council that makes these races happen each and every week, and on behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer and my colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long, good night from The Rock. We'll catch you next week on the sunny beaches of Daytona to end the regular season.